Welcome to First Chapter Friday. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a book I've actually read already, but it has it has a really interesting concept, so I wanted to do it for a First Chapter Friday instead of a Book Talk Tuesday, but I may do it as a Book Talk Tuesday a little bit later. So this book is called Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend and is by Matthew Dix. Unlike the other books that I have been sharing, this is definitely not a dystopian book. This is more of a fantasy, sort of a realistic fantasy type of book, and you'll find out why as soon as I read the description, which I will do right now. Budo is lucky as imaginary friends go. He's been alive for more than 5 years, which is positively ancient in the world of imaginary friends. But Budo feels his age and thinks constantly of the day when 8-year-old Max Delaney will stop believing in him. When that happens, Budo will disappear. Max is different from other children. Some people say he has Asperger's, but most say he's on the spectrum. None of this matters to Budo, who loves Max and is charged with protecting him from the class bully, from the awkward situations in the cafeteria, and even in the bathroom stalls. But he can't protect Max from Mrs. Patterson, a teacher in the Learning Center who believes that she alone is qualified to care for this young boy. When Mrs. Patterson does the unthinkable, it's up to Budo and a team of imaginary friends to save Max, and Budo must ultimately decide which is more important, Max's happiness or his own existence. Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend is a triumph of courage and imagination that touches on the truths of love, of life, love, and friendship as it races to a heartwarming and heartbreaking conclusion. So I'm going to read the first chapter in a second. This book, like a couple of the others that I've shared this month, does lean more on the older crowd, though it feels like sort of a more of a younger kid's book because it does follow an imaginary friend, but it does deal with some really tough issues. So there's your warning. I love this book a lot. So let's get into, I'm actually going to read the first 2 chapters because the chapters in this book are actually pretty short, which is great. So here's chapter 1. Here's what I know. My name is Budo. I have been alive for 5 years. 5 years is a very long time for someone like me to be alive. Max gave me my name. Max is the only human person who can see me. Max's parents call me an imaginary friend. I love Max's teacher, Mrs. Gosk. I do not like Max's other teacher, Mrs. Patterson. I am not imaginary. 2. I am lucky as imaginary friends go. I have been alive for a lot longer than most. I once knew an imaginary friend named Philippe. He was the imaginary friend of one of Max's classmates in preschool. He lasted less than a week. One day he popped into the world looking pretty human except for his lack of ears. Lots of imaginary friends lack ears. And then a few days later, he was gone. I'm also lucky that Max has a great imagination. I once knew an imaginary friend named Chomp who was just a spot on the wall. Just a fuzzy black blob without any real shape at all. Chomp could talk and sort of slide up and down the wall, but he was two-dimensional like a piece of paper, so he could never pry himself off. He didn't have arms and legs like me. He didn't even have a face. Imaginary friends get their appearance from their human friend's imagination. Max is a very creative boy, and so I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face. I'm not missing a single body part, and that makes me a rarity in the world of imaginary friends. Most imaginary friends are missing something or other, and some don't even look human at all, like Chomp. Too much imagination can be bad, though. I once met an imaginary friend named Pterodactyl, whose eyes were stuck on the ends of these 2 gangly green antennas. His human friend probably thought they looked cool, but poor Pterodactyl couldn't focus on anything to save his life. He told me that he constantly felt sick to his stomach and was always tripping over his own feet, which were just fuzzy shadows attached to his legs. His human friend was also obsessed with Pterodactyl's head, and those eyes that he had never bothered to think about, anything below Pterodactyl's waist. This is not unusual. I'm also lucky because I'm mobile. Lots of imaginary friends are stuck to their human friends. Some have leashes around their necks, some are 3 inches tall and get stuffed in the coat pockets, and some are nothing more than a spot on the wall, like Chomp. But thanks to Max, I can get around on my own. I can even leave Max behind if I want. But doing so too often might be hazardous to my health. As long as Max believes in me, I exist. People like Max's mother and my friend Graham say that this is what makes me imaginary. But it's not true. I might need Max's imagination to exist, but I have my own thoughts, my own ideas, and my own life outside of him. I am tied to Max the same way an astronaut is tied to a spaceship, by hoses and wires. If the spaceship blows up and the astronaut dies, that doesn't mean the astronaut was imaginary. It just means that his life support was cut off. Same for me and Max. I need Max in order to survive, but I'm still my own person. I can say and do as I please. Sometimes Max and I even get into arguments, but nothing ever serious. Just stuff about which TV show to watch or which game to play. But it behooves me, that's a word Mrs. Gosk taught the class last week, to stick around Max whenever possible, because I need Max to keep thinking about me, keep believing in me. I don't want to end up out of sight, out of mind, which is something Max's mom sometimes said when Max's dad forgets to call home when he's going to be late. If I am gone for too long, Max might stop believing in me, and if that happens, then poof. Okay, so that is the first 2 chapters of Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend. This is a very wonderful book, but it is also sad. I highly, highly recommend it. So that's all I have for you today. Check this book out. Check all the other books I've shared with you this month out, and I will see you next week for Miscellaneous Monday. Bye!